All right, the Chiefs made a bunch of roster moves this week, including signing a couple players to the 53-man roster, as well as a couple more to the practice squad today. One being an athletic tight end, and the other being an intriguing wide receiver who's been in the league for a while and shown he can contribute on an NFL roster. So we got to talk about that, as well as Rob Gronkowski making some comments today about Toney, saying he does not love the game of football because of the mistakes he's been making. So let's talk about it. But first, how about those? First up, Chiefs Bids is back with another partnered giveaway of this full-size helmet signed by linebacker Drue, Tranquill, and sheesh, that signature looks nice. But before we talk about that, did you know that Patrick Mahomes currently leads the entire league in total yards? Well, spoiler alert, he does! Through 15 weeks, Mahomes has 4,037 total yards, which is 61 more yards currently than Tua, Turnabolova, and obviously ahead of other QBs who are playing really well like Josh, Crybaby Allen, Brock, looks like a baby Purdy, Jalen, Tush Push Hurts, and everybody else. Now, Mahomes is currently 7th of all QBs in rushing yards, totaling up 334 yards on 61 carries, which definitely helps his total. However, it's still pretty crazy to think about because he's currently dealing with the receiver room that leads the league in drops, has the worst drop percentage over the last decade of any wideout room at 8%, with the next team below that being the Jets at 5.1%, and the league average being below 4%. And then he has two receivers in particular with the worst drop percentage in the entire league, with Toney in second, dropping 10.5% of his targets, and Rashee Rice is actually third, dropping 9.5%. Now, to be clear, Rashee Rice is having an incredible season in spite of that, being 4th of all rookies in receiving yards and tied for 2nd among all rookie receivers with 7 touchdowns. 7 touchdowns is also a rookie franchise record he just broke last week. However, Rice can still improve on his drops for sure. On top of that, though, KC also has 2 receivers that are top 10 worst in the league in EPA per target. Toney is 9th, and Skyy Moore is 6th. And that's not even looking at all of the miscues, or the fact that as of week 13, KC had been flagged for 53 accepted penalties on offense, which was the most in the NFL, or the fact that KC has turned the ball over 24 times, which is the most in a season since Big Red became the head coach, and there's still 3 weeks left to play. Even with all these issues, though, Mahomes again leads the league in total yards and then is 4th in passing yards with 3,703. He's 4th in QBR, tied for 5th in touchdowns, 5th in EPA per play, and 6th in EPA success rate. All in all, this is basically a case for why Mahomes should possibly be considered a frontrunner for league MVP, though I understand why he won't be. This is also just something for you guys to take encouragement, knowing that if some of these issues on offense can indeed get cleaned up as soon as possible, the Chiefs are still a very dangerous team. The question is, can they actually right the ship, playing a consistent, clean game on offense for all 4 quarters here leading into the playoffs? Next up, Chiefs Bids is back with another sponsored giveaway of this full-size helmet signed by linebacker Drue Tranquill, who also wrote out HBTC on there for How About Those Chiefs? And before I tell you guys where to go for your chance to win this for free, I've got to let you know that Chiefs Bids has a lot of awesome game-worn items available to bid on this week via the Chiefs app. I'm talking about game-worn gloves from L'Jarius Sneed and Isaiah Pacheco, among others, cleats from Charles Omenihu, as well as a jersey from him. There's also game-worn jerseys from Joshua Williams and L'Jarius Sneed, pants from George Karlaftis and Bolton, a used signed game ball from Rashee Rice, as well as a jersey and pants combo from Creed Humphrey and even Chris Jones. So go and check those out ASAP. Then there's also signed items from former and current Chiefs players you can bid on. They even have some mystery boxes up right now that includes free shipping. So make sure to check out the Chiefs app in the bids portion for awesome stuff like this that is updated all the time. And as far as how to win this signed HBTC Drue Tranquill helmet, you'll need to head over to the Chiefs Bids private Facebook page. Link is in the description. Join the group, and after you get approved, comment HBT Chiefs on their featured giveaway post that you'll find pinned to the top of the group right here in the featured section. I'll be announcing the winner using a random comment picker on Tuesday, December 26th, so make sure to head on over to Chiefs Bids private Facebook page as soon as you're done watching this video and comment HBT Chiefs on the featured post for your chance to win that full-size helmet signed by Drue Tranquill. All right, the Chiefs made several recent roster moves that I want to bring you all up to speed on. Last Saturday, just prior to the Raiders game, KC signed safety Deon Bush from the practice squad to the active roster, with Brian Cook out on IR for depth and special teams purposes. purposes and to make room for Deion Bush, since the roster was already at 53 with Nick Bolton returning from IR, KC waived linebacker Darius Harris, signing him back to the practice squad just yesterday. Then, wide receiver Skyy Moore was placed on IR this past Monday immediately following the Patriots game, and this was a surprise because we never saw him hurt during the game. Well, the all-22 of the game shows Skyy's last snap in the fourth quarter on this play here, where Mahomes ends up getting sacked, and when Toney pulls Skyy up off the ground, he not only favored his right leg, but could be seen with what looked like a limp as he was getting off the field before the camera pulled away from him. So, from that, it's safe to deduce he is indeed hurt, and it's not some weird ploy by the coaching staff to bench Skyy for the remainder of the season. Anyway, after Skyy was placed on IR, Justin Ross was brought back to the roster, returning from the commissioner's exempt list, where he basically served his 6-game suspension, and that brought things back up to 53. And Justin Ross will more than likely play, in my opinion, on Christmas against the Raiders, but I would think Richie James sees a higher uptick in snaps with Skyy on IR, and Justin gets worked in rather slowly, considering the fact he missed 6 weeks of practice with the team when he was out on the commissioner's exempt list. On top of that, Mecole Hardman could also be returning soon, as he stated on Twitter after having successful thumb surgery that he'll be back before the regular season is over, which not only is potentially very soon, but also further muddies up the wide receiver room, in my opinion, because it's another receiver you have to figure out what to do with in the midst of a room that doesn't have much of an identity outside of Rashee Rice and Justin Watson. However, that's a topic for another day. A topic for today, though, is the fact that the Chiefs signed 2 additional players to their practice squad today. Here's what's going on. According to Charles Goldman of AtoZ Sports, tight end Garrett Prince was moved to the practice squad injured list due to an undisclosed injury back on December 12th, which means they could use a little tight end depth on the practice squad. And lo and behold, they worked out tight end Izaiah Gathings on Tuesday, and today signed him to the practice squad. And if that name sounds familiar, it's because it should. He made the Chiefs' 90-man roster prior to the start of the season, but didn't make it on cutdown day. Gathings is a former college wide receiver out of Middle Tennessee State, same college as former Chiefs Darius Harris and Charvarius Ward, where he had a breakout season his senior year and recorded 60 catches for 559 yards and 2 touchdowns that year. He went undrafted in 2022 and signed with the Jets after a successful tryout during minicamp, but was later released. Then again, the Chiefs signed him back in July during training camp after Jody Fortson dislocated his shoulder, but waived him before the start of the regular season. Gathings is 6'4", 222 pounds, and ran a 4.67 40 during his pro day, which isn't extremely quick for a wide receiver, but solid for a tight end, which could have played a role on why he switched positions. But being a former receiver, he has a lot of upside and made some standout plays during training camp, including this leaping grab over the middle of the field. Some people think he could be a long-term player for the Chiefs, similar to Jody Fortson, who ironically used to be a wide receiver and they converted to a tight end, and they could seek to develop him and offer him a futures deal, but time will surely tell there. I will say, though, when they worked out Izaiah Gathings on Tuesday, it made me a wee bit nervous due to the fact that Travis Kelce fell awkwardly on his elbow at the end of the Patriots game, and I'm over here like, please, don't let this Gathings signing mean Kelce is banged up and, I don't know, Matt Bushman is getting called up from the practice squad to the 53-man roster for some depth or anything like that. Well, I really do think it's most likely due to the fact that tight end Garrett Prince is on the practice squad injured list, because today, the New Heights podcast dropped their latest episode, and this clip here not only shows Travis Kelce being entertained by the fact that Bailey Zappe's first name is Bailey, but he also grabs an energy drink with that same arm he landed on at the end of the Patriots game.
Linebacker Willie Gay intercepted Bailey Zappe.
Zappe's that's his first name is Bailey?
Yeah.
Interesting.
All right. Returned 24 yards all the way to the 7-yard line.
So I'm glad we can very quickly conclude that elbow watch for Travis Kelce is over, because the Chiefs also signed an intriguing veteran wide receiver today to the practice squad. And before I get to who they signed, I want to say from the jump, this is most likely simply a depth piece signing due to the fact that Skyy Moore got placed on IR. But with that being said, KC signed NFL veteran Anthony Miller. He's a former second-round pick by the Chicago Bears back in 2018 out of the University of Memphis. He's a smaller-bodied guy at 5'11", 205 pounds, but ran a 4.48 40 at his pro day back in 2018 and had a RAS of 9.27 out of 10 coming out of college, so he is definitely a very athletic guy. The now 29-year-old veteran played for the Bears Bears for 3 seasons from 2018 to 2021, all 3 of which were under Matt Nagy, who was the Bears head coach during that time. So there's some familiarity there, and in that time he recorded 134 catches for 1,564 yards and 11 touchdowns, and while he had 7 touchdowns his rookie year, his most productive season was probably in 2019 when he had 52 catches for 656 yards and 2 touchdowns. So he's a proven guy that has shown he can effectively contribute at the pro level, but he's been a bit quiet as of late. He played for the Texans and Steelers since his time with the Bears, but only had a combined 6 catches with both squads in 2021, and that's actually the last time he's played an NFL game. Miller spent this past preseason with the 49ers, but was cut before the regular season, and now finds himself in KC on their practice squad. And while I don't think the 29-year-old veteran will see any real immediate playing time this season, he makes sense as a depth piece that actually has real NFL experience and is also familiar with Matt Nagy from his time in Chicago. But hey, all that being said, what are your thoughts on the signing of wide receiver Anthony Miller as well as tight end Izaiah Gathings? Let me know your thoughts, positive or negative, on both of them in the comments down below. And then before I get out of here, former NFL tight end Rob Gronkowski made his way into the news today when he recently made an appearance on Kay Adams' podcast, saying that Kadarius Toney is not a player who loves the game of football. Gronk said, of course, Toney is an athletic freak. He can run routes and return punts, but when you make costly mistakes like he does, not only on and off throughout his career, but also this season in the beginning and as late as week 15, and hasn't shown an improvement with those mistakes.
It's kind of like you just don't love the game of football. You're just out there because you're just so athletic that you were born with that type of athleticism, but you're not out there to be the best teammate you can be or best football player that you can be. But when you keep making mistakes like that, you must not be that much into the game and you must not love the game.
And Gronk said the reason why he feels that way about Toney is because if you love the game, you go back and you fix those mistakes, the simple ones especially. Focus in on the ball and catch it before worrying about yards after the catch, i.e. the basics. If you love the game, you go back to the locker room, you take accountability, and then fix those issues on the practice field, which then should translate into the real games. And while I get what he's saying to an extent, the problem here is Gronk is not in the locker room or on the practice field to know what's actively being said or done by Toney and the coaching staff behind the scenes or in practice. And to be clear, I'm not over here just blindly defending Toney either. He needs to catch the freaking balls, but Gronk seems to be a bit assumptive here in his thoughts about Toney. Meanwhile, Travis Kelce had this to say today about Toney's drop and the photo that surfaced of Kelce putting his arm around Toney after the game.
He had a drop. I had a drop. I was right there just telling him, we both got to be better, man. Everything else that I said can be between us. I said everything I needed to say last week. I love KT. If we get the opportunity again, I'm going to throw that shit right into his chest again. And I got all the faith in the world. That dude, he's one of our best players, man. You turn on the film, you watch what he does when the ball's in his hands, and you can't tell me you don't want that guy in your team, man. I'm trusting in 1-9 every time he's out there on the field. I still believe everything that I said, and sure enough, we didn't play our best, and we still came out with a 10-point victory, man.
So one great tight end, Rob Gronkowski, says what he says from a distance. Meanwhile, another great tight end, Travis Kelce, says what he says as someone who actively practices and trains with Toney right here and right now. But that's where I want to get your thoughts. Do you lean more towards Gronk's thoughts that Toney simply doesn't love the game of football and doesn't spend the adequate time to fix these small mistakes, and that's why they keep happening? Or do you line yourself up more with Travis Kelce, who has been training alongside Toney for over a year now? Let me know either way in the comments down below. And until next time, let's go. Let's freaking go. How about those?